Hello, this is Darrell Castle with today's Castle Report. This is Friday, the 22nd day of August in the year of our Lord 2025. I will be talking about Israel today. Israel, about Bibi Netanyahu and about his project for a greater Israel. Is he really working to expand Israel's borders across the Middle East, or is it simply self-defense? Is the Israeli destruction of Gaza retaliation and protection from terrorists, or is there more to it than that? There are many things I could be talking about right now, such as the Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska, followed by Trump's, quote, summiting Zelensky to Washington, followed by Giorgia Meloni's recognition of Europe being left out of the deal. She quickly called Europe's leaders and suggested they accompany Zelensky to Washington to plead their case. Before the real leader of the world, Ms. Meloni appears to be the upcoming star in Europe. But instead of those subjects, today I turn my attention back to the Middle East and to Israel, which is the center of much of the world's trouble right now. I will confess, I never believed the rumors of the project for Greater Israel. I thought it was just that, rumors, until now. What changed my mind? Well, just paying attention and following the actions and words of the leader of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, who has now confirmed for us and the whole of the Middle East that he is, in fact, on course for Greater Israel. He did an interview the other day with an Israeli television channel about 1 week ago. In that interview, he stated unequivocally that he was committed to the concept of a Greater Israel and that he believes that his expansionist policies and dreams are a biblical project. In other words, to paraphrase Ghostbusters, he's on a mission from God. I must say that in response to his words and actions, that he views the nature of God a little differently than I do. He said that the project is a generational thing passed on from leader to leader, but in the past, leaders have missed opportunities, made mistakes, which he is endeavoring to correct. He did not state specifically what countries or territories would be included in Greater Israel, but it is clear. It goes way beyond historical Palestine. It goes beyond Gaza and the West Bank. He has already destroyed many of the surrounding countries to the point that they hardly have governments anymore. Think of Syria, Iraq, Lebanon. Also Yemen, which has a government, apparently, though it's run by terrorists. What country is left? Which country is often referred to as the head of the snake? I guess that means that from Iran spews all the venom that is financing, supplying, and encouraging terrorism across the region. The snake's head must therefore be severed from its body, and he has an ongoing project to do just that. Let me get into a little of what seems to be going on in Iran right now. This week, Israel continued its war against Iran by conducting airstrikes across the country. Fires burned across Tehran and around the country, and a gigantic explosion and fire at an oil storage depot from the bombing. Israel then has reduced and is in the process of destroying not just Iran's capacity to make war, but its capacity to live and to feed its people. The conditions inside Iran right now appear to be terrible, and not just from Israeli attacks, but because Iran is suffering from an extreme drought and water crisis. There has been a decline in rainfall, granted, but also decades of mismanagement of water resources, decades of crumbling infrastructure from war and neglect. Sometimes the priorities of our leaders are not the same as ours. The priority for the last 46 years in Iran has been the development of nuclear weapons and the funding of terrorist proxy groups across the region. If you can't make money out of thin air, as we can here in America, then it's difficult to pay for everything. Choices have to be made. The decision to neglect water resources is bordering on catastrophic for the Iranians right now. Rationing power is one thing, but for a nation of 90 million people, with about 10% of those people living in their very large capital city of Tehran, it really would be catastrophic to have to ration water. Right now, about 2,000 villages across Iran receive water only by tanker. And the president, not the Ayatollah, but the president, is warning of a, quote, unimaginable situation. The crisis is apparently at a very critical level with millions of people at risk. Rainfall has declined by about 46% this year, but you may notice I attribute most of the empty reservoirs, crumbling water infrastructure to war, most of all to neglect and mismanagement, while most reports attribute it to climate change. To me, that makes no sense at all, because it's as if climate change only affects one country in the region while sparing all the others. No, folks, it's the Ayatollah. It's his nuclear ambitions, along with Israel, that is keeping the Iranians thirsty. Mr. Netanyahu is not without sympathy for the Iranian plight, because he immediately, after the recent attacks, he went on video and sent a message to the Iranians. The Israeli attacks came right after the Iranian president, a Mr. Masoud Pezeshkian, made his unimaginable situation statement to the nation. I will paraphrase Mr. Netanyahu's statement, his answer, as best I can, because although I watched the video, I do not have a transcript of his words. He told them that this war isn't necessary. More importantly, their water crisis isn't necessary and could be resolved very quickly. Israel would help them, could resolve the problem as soon as the, quote, tyrants are out of power. So I suppose that means changing your government to one favorable to Israel, and we will help you. So what kind of help could Israel provide to the head of the snake if the head were severed? He told them, and he told the whole world during his speech, quote, the thirst for water in Iran is only matched by the thirst for freedom, end quote. He compared the Iranian regime's treatment of its citizens to his struggle against it. Quote, your dictators impose tyranny and poverty upon you, just as they impose war on us, end quote. He then gave them a clear incentive to change their government by whatever means necessary. Quote, so here is the great news. The moment your country is free, Israel's top water experts will flood into every Iranian city, bringing cutting-edge technology and know-how. We will help Iran recycle water. We'll help Iran desalinate water, end quote. So, a policy for the Iranian people to keep in mind, all wrapped up in a humanitarian package. Time and space require me to leave Iran right now for the remainder of this report so I can continue to make my case for greater Israel. There are many examples other than Israeli experts pouring into every town and village in Iran. Once again, I ask in regard to Gaza, is it self-defense and retaliation, or is there more to it? Once again, the Israeli leadership answers the question. A week ago, last Thursday, Israeli Heritage Minister Amichai Eliyahu, responding to a question from the press about the destruction of Gaza, said, quote, the government is racing ahead for Gaza to be wiped out. Thank God we're wiping out this evil. We are pushing this population that has been educated on Mein Kampf. Gaza will be cleared for Jewish settlement, and Jewish towns won't be fenced inside cantons. All Gaza will be Jewish, although Arabs loyal to Israel will be tolerated. We aren't racist. We're fighting those who fight us, end quote. He went on to say a little later that there is no hunger in Gaza. But he said further, we don't need to worry about hunger in the Strip. Let the world worry about it. Most people think that mentioning the things that Israel appears to be doing is hurting Israel and hurting its cause against its hostile enemies. But to me, it's their behavior that is hurting them in the press. Support for Israel, its standing in the world, especially for Netanyahu, are plummeting across the world as more and more people are informed and more information comes to light. If the Israeli government is committing atrocities on a mass scale in Gaza, and if you love Israel, you should be alarmed and concerned about Israeli policies, as I am. I am afraid that if Israel doesn't reverse course soon, the world will see it as nothing but a nation of barbarians. If that were all, folks, it would be plenty. But as usual, it gets worse. Recently, one of those famous hot mic incidents occurred, or at least the audio from the statement leaked to the press. The statement came from IDF Major General Aaron Haliva, the former head of Israeli military intelligence, a man seen by the press as a centrist, a critic of the current Israeli government. He said, quote, for everything that happened on October 7th, For every one person on October 7th, 50 Palestinians must die. It doesn't matter now if they are children. The fact that there are already 50,000 dead in Gaza is necessary and required for future generations, end quote. That statement says many things combined in just a few brief words. Number one, it's an admission that there are at least 50,000 dead in Gaza and that many of them are children. Death reports are apparently not fake or exaggerated. The IDF is not in Gaza just to go after Hamas, and those civilians are more than collateral damage. Netanyahu lies when he denies the death count, and furthermore, it makes no difference if the dead are children or not. The man who speaks for the IDF and the Israeli government wants blood. Children and women or men, simply irrelevant. The intentional killing of innocents is not a crime or even a tragedy to him. It's necessary and it must happen. If the killing of 1,200 civilians, folks, this is my words now, if the killing of 1,200 civilians was an act of terrorism, and it was, then what is the killing of 50,000? One must ask, who is the greater terrorist? It might be possible to save Israel's reputation, who knows for sure. But to do so, Israel must change course and change right away. The United States, it seems to me, has a moral obligation in this struggle as well. After all, the United States supplies at least 69% of the Israeli weapons. Finally, folks, does God, through a command in the Bible, require the United States of America to send billions of dollars in money and weapons to Israel to be used to slaughter children in Gaza? Again, I'm no theologian, but does the passage in the Bible that warns believers to bless Israel refer to the Netanyahu government of today, no matter what that government does, or is it referring to the people of God in general? We have to decide that question. Whether we care one way or the other, I suggest we do that right away. At least that's the way I see it. Until next time, folks, this is Darrell Castle. Thanks for listening.